Okay. Well, let's get started. Jacqueline, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. To everybody on chat, Jacqueline comes from Doxa. She's one of the executives at Doxa, USA, and Caribbean. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk to Jacqueline is because as leaders, there is so much that we're constantly trying to figure out between what is the balance between craftsmanship and doing things well, doing things maintaining a level of quality versus what do we automate? What do we put off and just mass produce? And I'm a watch fanatic, and Doxa has been a brand that I've loved for a long time. And Doxa has done such a good job, in my mind, in maintaining that craftsmanship throughout these crazy times that we're in. So, Jacqueline, I just want to talk to you, learn more about that. But let's start with just introducing you and just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background.
Cool. Thank you. And thank you, Joel. And thank you to everyone who's watching now with us live and who maybe watches this in the future. Hopefully, I say something interesting or inspiring for you. If I don't, that's okay. If I do, or if you have more questions, I'm very easy to contact. And I love working with especially entrepreneurs and helping wherever I can. So, about me, I've been in the luxury retail space for 16 years now. So it's like completely my career identity, right? So I've done work with makeup, with skincare, with jewelry brands, women's wear clothing. And now obviously I'm super lucky to call Doxa home my last 2.5 years. It feels like forever. Like I feel like I didn't even have a life before Doxa. It feels like I just didn't even exist. I just woke up one day and I was here on Earth working for Doxa. And so, yeah, my background is luxury retail. And the fun bit about Doxa for me is that I was Patty certified. Apparently, it was yesterday, 12 years ago, was the anniversary.
Wow,
Came up on my time map
nice.
to
Huh.
remind me. And so that's a fun full circle moment because I did that as a hobbyist, but then that turned into a career with an ex-partner of mine. We created our own aquaculture business. So we were literally
Nice.
kind of farmers
Wow.
of the ocean, so to speak. And so we were diving almost every week to our artificial reef that we basically
That
created.
is so cool.
Yeah, so it's like I've always
Wow.
been an entrepreneur, so that's part of my spirit. And then I love adventure. I do so many different types of activities. So Doxa was just really cool to bring my love of water sports
Yeah.
together with the entrepreneurial spirit. And Doxa kind of gave me the reins and said, "It's yours. Run in the Western Hemisphere." Of course, they're Swiss, so there's a few barriers and a few rules that I had
Yeah.
to maintain. But it's been a really, really fun ride these last 2.5 years. And just even looking back 2.5 years, I feel like our growth and the name of the brand has it's like we've been big for 10 years. But yeah, it's incredible.
It really has blown up recently. It seems like, at least to me, I'm sure you have a lot of the metrics and everything else. So to everybody here listening, if you don't know a lot about the Doxa brand, I mean, Doxa has been around for a long time. I think 1889 is
Mhm.
when it's when it started. I mean, you've seen so much change, but I'm seeing so many companies that are based on heritage and that are based on craftsmanship really start to struggle now in the age of AI and age of automation. What have you seen as maybe challenges or things that you have decided, this is where we're going to head, that have just worked out in your favor?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, as you said, Doxa began in 1889, making it approximately 136 years old. And I have to give credit. So, everything about Doxa, the ethos comes from our original owner. So, Mr. George Ducommun started Doxa at the age of 21. He started watchmaking at the age of
Mhm.
12. He also either had an entrepreneurial spirit or grew one. And in the early 1900s, as the world went into World War I, he said, "I'm not going out of business. I'm going to make this work." And that is a part of what Doxa has always been, right? So in the beginning, Mr. Ducommun was making watches for both sides of the war. He was making pilot watches, which, today we're only in the
So
ocean and we only
interesting.
do dive watches. Yeah, but he made military timepieces of all sorts for both sides. I believe there was some fact about like he even started making pens or he made something else in his factory
Wow.
to somehow support the war and the efforts to make sure that his business stayed afloat. He did like three or four things that I'm blanking on. So anyways, that plus his idea of he wants to give the best and highest quality watch for the best price to the end consumer. That's another ethos that we still have to this day. You know, if you're not a watch nerd, that's okay. Some of the things I say might be a little bit silly or hard to comprehend in a way, but like a movement is the piece within the watch that is physically moving the hour, minute, and second hands, right? So
Hmm.
there's special ways to make movements, and the movement is part of what makes the expense or not of a watch, right? So of course, if the case is in gold, it's more expensive than a
Yeah.
case which is kind of like the case is like the body that we see, right? That's sitting on our wrist. This is a
Hmm.
case. So there's a lot of factors that make a watch have the price that it has, but the movements are part of it. So one thing that Doxa did and after the quartz crisis in the 70s and onwards is that we started using mass produced movements. Now, there's some mass produced movements that are not high quality, and there are some that are great quality or considered to be high quality, like Salida. Salida, Etta, they're in Hublot, they're in bigger brands than
Hmm.
Doxa, but they're also in a Doxa. And we actually sell our watches with fantastic movements at 1/4 to 1/5 of the price of some of the other lower end but bigger names in the watch world. So we're continuing to keep that ethos. So how do we survive in this new era, right? Because I mean, look, no one needs a watch, right? You don't need a watch.
Yeah.
You need water,
Yeah.
you need food, you need air. No one needs a watch. It's a luxury either way. And the age of like cell phones, we've got the
And
timer.
most people just, yeah, they have their phone and they pull it up.
Exactly.
They tell.
And I feel like Apple Watch, in a way, brought some consumers back to watches because, okay, now I've got a watch again, but this watch is text messaging, it's emailing, I'm able to answer my phone from it quickly. It has
Hmm.
more functions, right? But real watch wearers, and something that Docs has kind of dug their heels into for at least the last 30 to 40 years, is just staying to the heritage. So it's staying about watchmaking. We're not worried about over automating or putting AI into our watches. We're really worried about keeping that nostalgia of something. It's kind of like if it's not broke, don't fix it. It's this beautiful movement. It works well. It has the history. When you put on a watch, you can be in modern times or you can feel transported back to,
Hmm.
the early 1900s if you're holding a Doxa pocket watch. So that's kind of where Doxa is at as far as I see in the trend. I mean,
Yeah.
for us, there's no movement, no pun intended, no movement into AI in our watches. Although I know some watch brands, we were talking about it in the pre-show, some watch brands are putting
Yeah.
chips now in AI chips in their watch so that it can reset your watch to make sure it's accurate, which is interesting because it almost takes out the need for a service center, right? Because your watch is almost like servicing itself in real time
Yeah.
or resetting
Yeah.
itself in real time. So it's so cool to see where this industry is going. Or something that I've thought about and joked with people before is, well, everyone wants to wear their Rolex, but they want their Apple Watch so that they have the health benefits, right? Maybe they
Yeah.
need those metrics or they just want those metrics. So now someone has come out with a bracelet where you can have your Rolex on the top and your Apple Watch
Oh.
underneath your
Huh.
wrist. So you're getting like the best of both worlds. And it's so interesting to see all these different ways that different brands are choosing or new brands are coming up out of nowhere with these ideas on how to merge the AI and the old school, like literally sitting there and building a watch techniques.
Yeah, I think one of the one of the pieces that I struggle with, and I coach leaders, I coach executives across different areas, and I know they're struggling with the same thing. What what do customers want now? So you're I don't know how much you see about the demographics of the people buying your watch, but I'm from what I'm seeing, a lot of the people that are interested in Doxa watches are not, you know, 89, some of them are 80, 90-year olds, but a lot of them are, you know, 30-year-olds, 20-year-olds that
Mm.
go diving and that, yeah, like you say, don't necessarily need that 100-year-old timepiece. They could have other, but they choose to do that, and they probably are using AI everywhere, and they probably are, but they're
Mhm.
still choosing to stay with this crafted piece. And a lot of leaders are wondering, how can I stay true to what gives us value, but still meet the need of this demographic that's all about efficiency and automation. And as in your position, I'm sure you've thought about these kind of things. So how do you maintain that balance as a leader between everybody wants us to move fast, but we need to stay true to ourselves?
That's a really great question. And I feel like there's no cookie cutter answer to that, right? It's going to be different for every brand, every industry. And like within the watch world specifically, I can tell you it's going to be so different for my brand
Oh
versus
yeah.
whatever other brand name you want to bring up. And I feel like so far, so a fun fact, I would say, and this is just my guesstimation, I meet about 40,000 people a year talking about Doxa. So that doesn't include the fact that I'm in an airport every single week, the airport lounges, the
Hmm.
trains, whoever accidentally sits next to me at the bar when I'm traveling on business, and then I start talking their ear off about Doxa. It doesn't include those people.
Yeah.
Just at watch events, watch trade shows, that sort of thing. I talk to about 40,000 people a year. So I'm lucky enough to have a really nice relationship with a lot of the end
Hmm.
consumers. And I would say I joke and I think that I'm probably mathematically correct that maybe 5% of Doxas make it to the ocean to scuba dive. And I would say then from that, maybe 10% make it to the ocean, period. You don't know
Yeah.
how many Doxas I sell, and the people are like, I don't
And it
even
is
want
a
to.
diving brand.
And it is a
That's
diving
so
brand.
yeah.
So it's funny that they're not even buying it for the function that it
Yeah.
is completely made for. I mean, we have patents for this bezel. Our brand with Rolex created the helium escape valve. We were the first brand in the world to put a helium escape valve on a watch, which, if you don't know what that means, it just basically means when you dive, helium and other gases collect inside the watch. So it doesn't explode the glass. You need a helium escape valve to kind of let those gases out as you're diving, right? And so it's interesting to think about the need for AI. So, with Doxa, it's not even a conversation that our clients are having with us. I think what my client base is loving about AI is that they can go home with their Doxa and have an experience, right? So they can make their own video. And then they use AI, even though they're not a video editor or anything, they
Yeah.
can use AI to make that video. They can use AI to tell them what script to talk about in this video, right? They can use AI in order to make more of a community. So with
Hmm.
Doxa, it's something special for us, but it's special to the watch world, but I find it's more exaggerated with Doxa. Our clients are all about community. So in a way, my client is almost adverse to AI in this
Yeah.
social interaction. Maybe I mean, in
Yeah.
San Francisco, tons of them work in the tech world. They're using computers all day. They're using AI in a way that we don't even know, and it won't even be rolled
Hmm.
out to us for maybe a year, 2 years, or more. But when it comes to this watch,
It's
I
almost their
feel like
safe space
it's their
that
safe space.
I yeah.
It's like a reminder that we're human, that this is like all
Hmm.
still tangible, or that yes, technology is epic and technology can move certain things in your business forward, but there's kind of, I like to see it as like there's no replacement for what is real and tangible and human. And for me, this watch, it's entirely, I mean, of course, some machines are used to make
Yeah.
this watch, but for the most part, it's entirely put together by human hands. I've
Yeah.
been lucky enough to stand at Doxa over the watchmakers and watch them put together these pieces. So I feel like they like that aspect of
Yeah.
Doxa.
That's awesome. By the way, anybody who's on chat here, any questions that you have on, yeah, the balance between craftsmanship and automation and AI, or any questions for Jacqueline directly, please drop them in the chat. We'd love to address them. It it's so cool to know how you've seen that. We have so many. Like I'm seeing a lot of the people on here in chat. They're content creators. They write their own newsletters. Some are consultants, and I know a lot of them are thinking, I have this talent. I'm a craftsman of
Mhm.
my newsletter. I'm a craftsman of my business, and I created with my value. And a lot of people are fearing, where does my value stand when AI comes over and just automates everything? And I think this is a really good reminder of, as humans, we still want things that are man made. We
Mhm.
we want things to be automated that are gonna even give us more time for what our craft is. And if your craft is writing, don't automate that. If
Mhm.
your craft is making watches, it would be stupid to automate. And honestly, I think a lot of your customers would probably leave if you just turn on a machine and just say, "Hey, we've decided to just automate the entire process. I know we're going to have some errors now, but everything is just off the press and into the mailboxes." People wouldn't appreciate it because they appreciate the craftsmanship and the man-made nature of Doxa.
Well, and it loses its magic, right? So
Yeah.
imagine if
Mhm.
Doxa just we fired all of our watchmakers and we just had these machines making the watches. It's less human, and that's what
Yeah.
my feedback would be to especially writers. Don't automate. Don't fall into this loop of using chat or whatever AI you prefer to write for you, because first of all, we can all tell. Everyone can tell when something is written by AI. There is not a human on earth that speaks, or at least, I mean, my chat GPT, like every single time it writes something for me, I'm like, okay, now, but there are times where,
Yeah.
I've thought a little bit deeper with my chat and I tell my chat, okay, I want you to come at these questions from like a spiritual component. I want you to add in
Mhm.
a human layer that no one has asked. Or I ask chat sometimes really deep questions and to try to get it to think in a different way. So for example, last week I got the privilege of putting together some questions for a Navy SEAL. And so he was active duty in the 70s. He's literally very
Wow.
sadly passing away as we speak. He's in hospice. I'm like getting chills all over my body. Um,
Yeah.
and apparently no one has ever cared to ask him his story. I'm sure
Oh,
people
wow.
talked to him over the years, but we wanted to cement it in history, right? We wanted
Mhm.
to broadcast to at least the Doxa world
Yeah.
this man's story. And so as I'm thinking about it, my client is an authorized dealer, and they're like, "Well, what questions do you want to ask him? What do you want to know? What like nuggets do you want for Doxa?" And I'm like, "Who cares about Doxa?
Yeah.
Ask him, what made you want to get into service? What was the scariest
Mhm.
moment of your career? What was the
Yeah.
most touching moment?" And then of course, like, yeah, you can sprinkle in, what does doxa mean to you? Do you remember the moment you
Yeah.
got your first doxa? What was it about? Or do you still wear your doxa in the last 50 years that you haven't been active duty? And then so I put these things into my chat, and again, it's keeping in mind, like, I talk to my chat about, personal, professional, everything. It
Yeah.
knows how I'm thinking, right? It still doesn't write anything like me, but it knows how I'm thinking. And it came back with some of the most beautiful, even more deep questions that I
Oh,
didn't
wow.
think about asking this man about his experience, and like how to pull, especially out of like a military guy like that. I mean, I've never met him.
Mhm.
Fortunately, I won't have the chance to, but I would imagine he's not probably overly emotional. So it was
Yeah.
like these really amazing questions that got deeper to get to know his soul and get to know him as a person and what mattered most to him. And to me, that was more important than telling some
That's
abstract
wonderful.
story. Yeah. So like chat can be a great tool to
Yeah.
push you to maybe another limit, or maybe, in your creativity, you got stuck in your box a little bit. Like I knew what I wanted to say, but I'm not good with
Mhm.
sometimes. So I
Yeah.
needed to push, but then I ultimately rewrote the questions. I ultimately made a flow of questions. So I didn't like chat's flow. So
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many people that are always going to appreciate the real human touch, and don't allow yourself to go away with that. Will you lose some jobs? Yeah, maybe. Are jobs going to get automated? Absolutely, they are. But there's going to be companies and people who are not interested in that. Look at the
Yeah.
grocery store. How
Yeah.
long have we had the scan your own stuff
Yeah.
aisles at grocery stores? At least 10 years, if not 15.
Yeah.
But guess what? There's still humans
That's
working
a good
at
example.
almost
That's a good
every
example.
grocery store. And it was funny.
Yeah.
One time I went with one of my friends to the grocery store, and I said, "Oh, the self checkout line. There's tons of lanes open." She said, "No, I'm not going in that line because I want to support a person having a job, and I want to support their life, and I don't do that by going that line." And so now every time I find myself about to go to a self checkout line, I literally reroute and I go find, even if I have to stand in line for a couple minutes, unless I'm in a super hurry. If I'm in a super hurry,
Yeah.
then okay, I run out the door. But for the most part, I'm like, you know what? I like that because they can see those metrics, right? They can see how many people scanned out, how much money did they make per scanner, but they can also see how many people stood in line and
Mhm.
valued, for whatever reason, that human helping them. And I think
Yeah.
that
The
that's
human
where,
interaction.
yeah, and as humans, we have that responsibility, right? We have to vote with our money. I don't know who made that famous, but in the last year I've heard that a lot. Vote with your money. So if you are scared that your job is going to be taken over by AI, support brands and companies that are not allowing AI to replace their people. Now they can work in tandem, and I think that's great. But if they're replacing, let's think about that. Okay, if you're a creative, don't. don't support those things.
Yeah. That's so cool. And I love that example you brought in. I think it's so many people are using AI just I think to be lazy. Yeah, you
Mhm.
just once it starts doing the thinking for you, I think you've lost because you are I think you're taking steps to replace yourself. I mean, you're making yourself replaceable. But what you brought in, you wanted to get something across to this Navy SEAL. You wanted to ask the right questions. You had AI essentially come alongside you as a collaborator. Hey, help me rethink of these things. Help me find a new angle. Then it was Jacqueline that's bringing everything together. That you're
Mhm.
putting the questions together and you're getting your ideas across. And I think to anybody here that's listening now or in the recording later in the post, there's so much value in your expertise as a person. And when you think about how to use AI wisely, how to use AI in your business strategically, how to grow, it it really starts with knowing what is my what's my expertise, what's my value, what do I want to keep true to myself, and then you can enhance that with AI. But the minute that you start replacing your thinking, as you were saying, I think that's when somebody else is going to come in and say, "Yeah, we're going to do it better."
Well, they can do it better, or you also have to think about, when we're using AI, the powers that be that own this AI and stuff, they're farming our information. They're
Yeah.
farming our personalities. So that's like a whole nother aspect to it is, and that's a kind of a push and pull I feel within myself too. Going back to kind of the example of the line at the grocery store, which one to use, because I'm like, well, if I teach this AI to think with more depth and care, like not a
Mm.
surface level, but really care deep on every topic that we're talking about, or to think this different way, I'm kind of just feeding it. Or if I'm sitting here telling AI, hey, this is my business strategy for the next 5 months, you think that the thing's not going to tell? It doesn't matter someone in another industry or in my industry, but it's going to farm that data and it's going to, yeah, again, make you somehow replaceable. But the other crazy thing about AI is that I find everyone thinks AI is like Bible. Like they think whatever it says to them is correct. Do you want to know how many
Yeah.
times my AI has been wrong?
Oh.
I'm like
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, "Honey, chat, redo that math real quick. That is not accurate." And it's like, "No, no, no, this is the correct number." And I'm like, "Do it again. Do it again." The third or fourth time it goes, "Oh, you're right. The answer was 5, not 7." I'm like, "Yeah, it was. And guess what? Because
Yeah.
you told me 5 3 months ago, it's made this huge problem for me in my life, and and it's because I
Yeah.
trusted it like Bible." And I think that's something that everyone has to remember is that it does not get it right. The Chat GPT, for example, doesn't even know what day or time it is. Do you know how many
Oh,
times I've
yeah.
told my
It
chat
never
what
does. It
time
never
it is?
does.
And it
Yeah.
gives me some silly, ridiculous answer on why it doesn't know and the coding and blah blah. I'm like, you crawl Google. You can you can almost essentially Google it for yourself in a way. And so I think that we all have to think about these details. Okay, how am
Yeah.
I causing the problem? How can I be a solution to the problem? And how do I at the same time work in tandem? So you don't want to get left behind, right? You don't want to not know how
Mhm.
to use AI. And I'm not suggesting that, but how do I use it smart that it
Yeah.
doesn't replace me, it just complements me.
Yeah. No, that's 100% it. I mean, I'm so glad that you are bringing that up because I honestly think that's one of the biggest misunderstandings. But yeah, people think it's the Bible. People think it's this all-knowing thing, and all it is a predictive machine that
Mhm.
looks at what the most likely response would be to your question. And we all know how much trash there is online.
Mhm.
And I read the statistic not long ago that the initial, I think ChatGPT 3 or 3.5, I think 60 or 70% of the content that it crawled to build its base was Reddit. So,
Oh, great.
yeah,
Oh,
another,
perfect.
yeah. So when we're trusting that I mean, to make your financial decisions or business decisions, I
Terrifying.
mean, you have to be able to think critically. AI is going to help you, but you have to be able to think critically. And I honestly think we're going to get to a point in the future where we're going to be proud to put a seal on something that says this is 100% man-made.
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
human generated. I think it's huge with watches now. I mean, you're proud to say this was man-made. I think we're going to start seeing content now,
Yeah.
newsletters, books that say this is man-made, and we're proud of it.
But also think about how many of us, I mean, it can't only be my Instagram that's spamming me with this, But all of a sudden, all I get are these AI videos that, again,
Oh,
and the nicest way I can say it, because I think that anyone who speaks multiple languages, I think it's phenomenal and amazing. But when you speak a language as your mother tongue, you speak it differently than someone who ultimately learns it, no matter how many words they know, no matter how great their breadth of the language is. There's this difference between the two, right? And that's how I feel like AI is. Every time I watch AI, I'm like, this is
it's
someone who like didn't.
slightly eerie, like
Yeah, it's like strange, it's
something.
hard to listen to, and it's not getting the message across totally clearly. But now my whole Instagram is nothing but these crazy AI videos, and some of them maybe I would like. Maybe I'd love to holistically know how to cure my sore throat. And yeah, maybe I can watch an AI generated video and get that content, but it's I'm fatigued by it already.
Yep.
I'm fatigued by looking at all this stuff, or now I'm seeing AI commercials where, like, I saw one today. I don't remember what the product was, but it had nothing to do with a girl in like a sports bra climbing a mountain, with a chest that is unreasonably large. And
Oh,
she's like talking, and it's like this AI bot. And I'm like, is this really what it's coming to? And I guess something different works for everyone, but I really do believe
yeah,
what you're saying. Eventually, it's going to be like, there is no AI in this process. But at the same time, AI can do amazing things. I read this amazing story. So, I mean, it's allegedly true. I mean, who knows it's true or not true? But this guy apparently cured his dog's cancer by using ChatGPT. And he had some science background. They were able to run tests. He was able to put the test also into the chat, and it helped to create a one of a kind cancer treatment for his dog, and
mm,
ultimately allegedly saved his dog. So, there's amazing use cases for AI, but I think that everyone just has to feel within themselves what is authentic or not to them, what feels right or not to them. At the grocery store, do you want to go to the line and check out faster and use the robot, or do you want to support a human and their paycheck? You know,
yeah,
and then you have to just kind of look at that all the time.
yeah. Tina said, "I can tell you that definitely works. As my cat's blood work came back wrong, and AI helped me find the problem and bring it to my vet."
Yeah,
That's
I
pretty
mean, that's
cool.
amazing. I mean, my chat has helped me twice with my dog, and again, I take it with a grain of salt, and again,
Yeah,
it's about like a gut instinct for me, but the chat has twice helped me not go to the emergency vet in the middle of the night, and told me, like, my dog's stomach was upset. I was like, "Her stomach's not upset, she's not going to the bathroom, she's not puking, she's shaking, like, as if, like, it looked like she had a seizure, like, one half of her body was frozen, the
oh
other was
boy.
shak," and it said, "Give her a spoon of, honey, raw honey, and then see if in 10 to 15 minutes the shaking stops." Let me tell you, the
Oh
shaking
boy.
stopped in 10 to 15 minutes. It saved me thousands of dollars. Now, of course, I know I've had
And
a
it did.
yeah, I've had a dog my entire life, and if she would have had, like, white gums or, certain symptoms, I would have never even stopped.
Mhm.
But for a second, I was like, "Okay, let me use chat to even just, like, log by the minute,
Yeah,
what's happening," and it told me, "Give her honey," and then she was completely fine. Apparently, she just had a weird upset stomach for the first time in the 10 years I've owned her.
that is so interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to I think of AI in the same way I think about fire or electricity. They are world-changing technologies, but just because you have them does not mean it's going to make things better for you. It has to be strategically used. And oh, I hate LinkedIn because of now, especially lately, all the AI. I mean, there are a few people that I know. As soon as I post something, it's like 3 paragraphs of AI generated content.
Oh,
It's just
no.
like, "Oh, no." But yeah, I've seen it. I think any one of us who has kids, I have 2 young kids. It's the same thing. There's so many kids videos that are just AI generated trash that it's just eerily weird, and somebody pops a leg out of somewhere, and
Yeah.
to your point, I think voting with our money is one. I mean, using, buying ads off of handcrafted places or commercials made by people, and personally being able to understand what is my value, what do I automate, what do I not automate, what do I want to keep true to myself. What is that for you personally? So not doxa, but as you look at your life, and have you stepped back and delineated, okay, this is what I'm okay giving to AI. This is I don't want AI to touch this.
Yeah, I kind of started flirting with that in the last like 6 to 8 months because again, I don't ever want to be behind. I don't ever
Yeah.
want to be archaic and like, oh, what is this Instagram or what is this AI? Like, I want to see where it can add value to my life, but it's a strange threshold because like I said, I've shared with it personal things and not so personal things and my business ideas or some parts of my business strategy, and I don't know really where that line is for me yet. I know that, like, I can tell you personally, I can go 2 years without turning on my TV. I never watch TV. I'm like one of the weirdest people on earth. I don't watch TV. I read books, I connect with friends and family, I go for walks with my dog,
That's
I
awesome.
do other things at night. I don't watch TV. So for me, like AI is another one of those like I don't think to use it, but then when
Hmm.
someone tells me a use case for it, I'm like, "Oh, whoa, that's an amazing idea." You know, for example, Tina with the cat and the blood, I'm like, you
Yeah.
better believe in a couple months when Cora goes for her annual checkup that I'm going to get all 10 years of her records and I'm going to run all of those through AI just to double, triple check. Again,
Yeah.
AI is the Bible. It did help her and it can help. So, finding those moments where it fits in and it makes sense to you, right? But another
Yeah.
point for AI in business is that AI doesn't think about certain metrics. So, for example, I can put in all the Doxa data, right? This is the style of watch that's sold, what we call a family. So that has to do with like the different shapes. So
Hmm.
family,
Yeah.
dial color, and maybe like the strap options. And um AI can dissect that data. Maybe AI can say, okay, well, we predict that this is how many units you're going to sell in the next 6 months. Or they can say, okay, well, based on the last 2 years of data you've given me,
Hmm.
this is our prediction. But you know what AI doesn't think about, but also humans don't think about this. This is something that a few times in my jobs I've said, wait, we need another report. They don't think about what's not sold. So, for
Hmm.
example, in one of my jobs in the women's wear world, they were not sending
That's
size
interesting.
yeah, they weren't sending size extra small to Miami. And in Miami, not that everyone's extra small, but there is a
Yeah.
lot of extra small
Yeah.
here. And so they kept saying like, "Well, why did you not why aren't you guys selling more?" And I said, "Okay, we need extra smalls." They're like, "No, you don't. No, you don't because you don't sell them." I'm like, "Well, we don't sell them because we don't have them here."
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
made all of my stores across America start this report called the missed sales list, and they just literally
Huh.
wrote onto a list the size, the shape, whatever reason we missed a sale, they write it down, right? And so then I started compiling this report over a year, and I
Mm.
created a whole PowerPoint presentation for the company, and I said, even I'm shocked. Even I am shocked because I thought the extra small was the biggest miss, but actually having extra large, not even offering extra large as an option was our biggest miss.
Oh wow.
Then we figured out that
Huh.
certain silhouettes that we thought were the most famous were not actually the most famous. And so we started to edit the company and they started to slowly trust my little
Mm.
reports. But then they saw all of a sudden extra
Yeah.
large, extra small were our best sellers from there on out.
Mm.
And I've noticed, even though I haven't been with that company for 4 years, I can look at what they're still doing as a brand and I
Yeah.
see that movement of, okay, we thought that this was what the clients wanted, but really they wanted this and they're continuing. So AI doesn't think about that. AI doesn't stop and
Yeah.
say, what watches did you not sell? Which
AI
watches?
looks at what you provided,
Yeah.
and that's 4 years ago, but that applies 100% today. What you critically think as a
Mhm.
human. What am I missing? And AI can help you look at the context, but it's only going to be able to look at the context that you give it. You have to think beyond that.
Yeah. And I mean,
Awesome.
so I
That's such
know
a good
that
example.
thank you. It sounds like a lot of people, maybe watching your content are maybe more in the creative space, but people who understand what KPIs are. So if you're
Oh
in
yeah.
retail
Yeah.
of any sport, some of these companies, they crack me up like, oh, the KPIs, the KPIs, the KPIs. But again, your KPIs are not actually telling you the whole story because there's critical
Yeah.
data that you're continuing to miss. Or, for example, what if one customer, for whatever reason, wanted 5 of their items on this order and 3 of their items on this order? Now it looks like I have 2 orders when in fact I had one. So that's another thing that
Yeah.
even though it was a manual process for my teams, I would make them like make those sorts of notes and we would have a completely different business report that was manually filled in that told all of these details. I mean, I
Mhm.
had it down to which rack every single week they had to tell me like, okay,
Oh
color
wow.
A was on rack 1, color B was on rack 2. And then we were shocked because everyone in the store in retail, they tell you that when you walk in the store, you always go to the right, or that's the normal retail flow, right? So there's a whole
Mhm.
psychology of the smell, the sounds.
Yeah, yeah.
You always put your most expensive thing on the right. Like there's this whole psychology that's behind this. So I said, okay, let's see in our store. Let's see with our customers. Well, guess what? They were wrong. They were wrong. And then we found that if we put the least selling print on the highest selling bar, magically that print started selling. Now, a high selling print could go on a lesser interesting bar and it still maintained more or less its sales. But these
Hmm.
prints that we needed to move that were not moving.
That is
So
so
it's
interesting.
all of these things, like maybe you can teach AI to think that way. Not many people in the retail space ever think that way that I've come across, but
Yeah.
these are ways that like my brain works of like, okay, how many more analytics? And if we don't have the information to run this analytic, how do we create it so that we can know with more certainty that we're making the correct decision? And then how do we continue to show those results, right, over
Mhm.
time?
That's such a good example because two things that I catch on there. I come from business and my background is business. That's my focus. So many people are either measuring the wrong things, so their KPIs look great, they're just not measuring the right thing, or they're still focused as it everybody turns right. They're focused on an assumption that may have been true 10 years ago, but
Hmm.
nobody ever thought to question it again and say, "Is this still true? Does this still hold true?"
Hmm.
to I mean that is such a good outline of the human value in leadership of an organization. To be able to ask the right questions, to be able to poke holes at things, to be able to think outside of the box. I know AI is going to say, okay, based on your trajectory, this is where you're going to keep heading, but you do need a human to say, okay, yeah, that's our trajectory and that's where we've been heading, but what about this opportunity off anything that we've ever done, like extra small and extra large, that may open new doors?
Hmm.
Um, and that's such a beautiful example. I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, why you're in your position with Doxa and why Doxa's seeing the growth that it's seen. So
But
that's
with
awesome.
Doxa, thank you for the compliments too, by the way. And with Doxa, the other interesting thing is that I came into this role wanting to flip some parts of the retail experience on its head and flip the industry on its head. So, yes, sales are important. Yes, I can go after sales. Yes, I can be a killer when it comes to sales. But at the same time, I have always in my Doxa experience and also in other jobs, but really in Doxa, I was like, I want to do this differently. So I've come at Doxa with the how can I make the biggest social impact? How can I make the
Mhm.
best interactions for everyone I talk to today? So whether it's a store owner, an end consumer, it's someone on my team, it's a sales associate of one of the stores. How can I give the most amazing, epic, fun experience? And I honestly, people ask me sometimes at shows when they see me in action or at events when they see me in action, and they're like, "How are you selling?" Like I'm just like, "Bam, bam, bam! Watch out the door! Watch out the door! Watch out!" And they're like, "What is going on?" I'm like, "Because I'm not a salesperson. I'm a human first, and I
Yeah.
come at every interaction with the confidence that whatever I'm supposed to receive or sell is going to be received or sold. But most importantly, that if I put good into the world, that good's going to come back to me. So
Mhm.
I have many people that can testify for me. 2 weeks ago, I was in Utah, and there was this gentleman, and he owns this smaller watch brand that he created this super cool bezel. His brand is called Mount West, and Drew is
Huh.
the owner, and I met Drew, and he has I mean, this bezel is crazy. It's so cool. Like, even if you just wanted, like, a fidget play, I mean, this watch is
Yeah,
just an
yeah.
epic. And again, I have a bleeding heart for the entrepreneur and all of this, so I'm talking to Drew. We're kinda talking through things, and, so I got to know his brand, right? Then Drew's in the store supporting my event. He's hanging out with some of the other watch guys from the clubs, and this gentleman is a mountaineer and rock climber. And so I rock climb as well. So we're geeking out over that. We're geeking out over Doxa. We're having this great experience. And the guy said, "Well, I have a problem." I said, "Okay, cool. What is it?" "I'm all about solutions. Let's go." And he said, "Well, I can't afford to buy two watches. And quite frankly, even, $1,200, $1,500 is kind of expensive, but I've wanted a Doxa for a really long time." And I said, "Okay, well then what's the problem?" And he's like, "Well, the problem is that there's this other watch brand." I said, "Okay, tell me about this watch." And he's like, "Well, actually, funny enough, Drew, the guy standing right there, owns it." And I said, "Oh, you want a Mount West watch?" He's like, "Yeah, kind of." And I said,
Huh.
honey, buy the Mount West. That's not even a question. I'm like, we've been here for
That's
136 years.
awesome.
We're not going anywhere. Please support Drew. And I can't tell you how many times at windups that probably the brands didn't even know that I've said that to my end consumer.
Huh.
I've had that conversation. And I believe in helping everyone. I believe in the community is better than the individual, right? And I also believe in giving the customer a relaxing space. So if let's say I had that conversation and the guy left my booth at Windup to go back to the other brand to support the smaller brand. What if while he was standing there supporting the other smaller brand, he was like, well, I do want to support this brand, but actually my heart wants the Doxa. He can come back and get the Doxa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or maybe he's like, I want to support the smaller brand. And when
Yeah.
I have the money, I'll support Doxa too, and I'll get a Doxa later. So that's another thing that like AI can't make that.
Yeah.
AI doesn't care about that metric. That's for me where AI becomes a little too corporate and it becomes a little too cold. And again, it loses
Yeah.
the human aspect. Sometimes at these shows, I'll spend as much time. If you want to stand there and talk to me for 4 hours, I will talk your ear off for 4 hours plus about Doxa. And it's happened. I've stood in a store with a client for 4 hours before. Like the store
Wow.
owner had to lie and say my boss was calling in order to pull me away to force me to eat my lunch that had been sitting there for 2 hours waiting for me. But I wanted to honor the customer. He came
Hmm.
out of his way to come and talk to me. I'm no one important. And he came out of his way and he spent his time and energy. So if he wanted to continue this conversation for 4 hours, I was going to meet him
Yeah.
toe to toe and honor him. Right. And that's something that AI can't duplicate or replace. And, I think
Yeah.
that if everyone came more from a space of how can we make the world a better place? How can I educate and just give a fun experience with my brand? It's going to go a lot further than let me hardcore sell you. Let me pressure you. Let me tell you to like take out a loan or call your mom or call,
Yeah.
someone else to make this credit card transaction go through, you know?
That's huge. That's such a good reminder. I mean, everything in life. There's so much FOMO right now. People don't want to miss out on AI. They want to be in the latest. They want to be able to sell. A lot of content creators. I just want to get new subscribers. If you step back and you think, am I adding value through what I'm doing? And then just focus on the people who you want to serve, and just focus on their needs. Just focus on not their wallets, but what it is that you can help them in. I think the sales are going to come. I think the subscribers are going to come. It, it. We're still people dealing with people.
Hmm.
Whether AI is in the middle helping things be more efficient or not, we're still people dealing with people. And I think it's so easy to forget that. Um, and that's such a good reminder to keep in mind. That's awesome. No, I like that. Now, it's 5:15, we're gonna finish out. What are your top destinations for diving that you've been to? I'm really
So
curious.
I'm almost embarrassed to give you the true answer. So as I said earlier in the call, I owned a business, right? And I was diving almost every week in that business. So
Hmm.
I have several hundred dives under my belt, and like almost
Wow.
all of them are to my own reef that
Hey,
my
that
ex and I
works.
built and cultivated over 2.5 years together. He still has the business 9 years later, and it's successful. And
That's
if you're a
awesome.
hobbyist for saltwater fish tanks, you may or may not have bought our product on Amazon.
That's so
Um,
cool.
Other than that, I've only dove once in the Bahamas, and that was actually a really sad dive because the it was just so bleached out, and it was just so hard
Oh,
to see the ecosystem destroyed. And then I dove with Jesus in Key Largo. So I don't know if you know about this, but an Italian gentleman bought 3 statues of Jesus, and he's kind of like looking up and everything. And he put them in his, I believe it was like his 3 favorite dive spots in the world. So there's one in
huh.
Italy, one in Key Largo, and one in Brazil somewhere.
Interesting.
So yeah, I did that, and then when I got PADI certified, I dove 2 different rec points, in Miami that I've never been back to.
That's awesome.
Yeah, most of my
That's
diving is
so
that,
cool.
and then post that situation, I've gotten more into surfing and kiteboarding. I mean, I've had my boating license since I was 12, so I've been able to captain up to like a 30-foot boat since I was 12 years old. So
Really?
yeah, my dad owned a
Wow.
water sports business when I was a child.
It's
So
so cool.
at 3 years old, I was thrown into the water in Orlando, Florida, and he said, "Either stand up or the alligators will bite you." And I knew because I've seen the alligators pulled out of that lake. I knew he wasn't kidding. So I stood up immediately.
Oh,
But yeah, I've always been, a
that's
water
awesome.
person.
Yeah, I love the water. I lived in Panama for a while. I dove in Panama on the Atlantic side, and then I dove in Key West, actually, not Key Largo, but right around it.
Yeah,
That's
right,
awesome, Jacqueline. So excited. That was such good information, I think, for anybody who's in any place. If there's one thing that people can remember from this is stay true to the value that you add, focus on people, everything else will come. You read a lot. To finish off, what are maybe two books that you can recommend to people that you like?
Okay, so a book that changed my life, and that sorry, my assistant's about to start barking at the door. I keep going for the mute. So if I mute myself for a second, it's so that you
No,
don't.
no, no, you're fine.
So one of my favorite books is called Mind Hacking by Sir
I've
John.
heard of it. I've heard of it. I haven't
It's
read it.
it's a yellow book. And if you're a tech person, you'll really love this book. I loved the analogies that he made to the tech world. There's some Star Wars references. I'm not a Star Wars person, so I didn't totally get it, those ones, but you understand the point. So this book, it actually helped me after I read this book. I think it was in 2017. I was able to go 20 minutes without thinking a thought. Now imagine, we're all stressed out. I was a leader.
I am not able to do that, at least right now.
But read the book and see if you can. I was in
Okay.
Europe on vacation, and I remember walking around, and then after a while, I was like, "Wait a second, this is weird. Something's missing." And I'm like, "What's missing? What's happening?" And then I'm like, "Oh my god, I haven't had a thought in over 20 minutes." Like I was just
Wow.
relaxed, and even though I'm stressed about, my dog's at home, I'm managing multiple stores. We have a buyer's thing in New York next week, or all the different things, whatever you can come up with. So mind
Mm.
hacking was great. It's also a great
Okay.
reminder of just good habits to put within yourself. And
Mhm.
then another book that I would recommend. This one's not really like a sit down and read, but if you're worried about your health or you're having health issues and you're interested in other ways to potentially deal with that, there's this book that I bought a couple years ago when I was having a bad health circumstance called The Body Ecology Diet. And
Huh.
I learned things in this book.
We love hearing barks. No
Sorry.
problem.
We're real safe in this apartment, and no one is getting. She's like 28 pounds of just pure white fluff. She looks like a little white fox, but she would be vicious. I would not want to break in here.
Oh, that's funny.
So the body ecology diet. So it tells
Okay.
you these interesting facts that I never knew about humans, how we should eat, how to optimize. So I kind of like biohacking in certain ways, but I like it more the natural, like back in the day
Yeah.
type of
Yeah. Yeah.
style. So that was a really cool book
That's
that,
awesome.
yeah, it helped me change how I eat, and it's changed my body and my relationship with my body and my energy levels and my health. So yeah, that's my
Okay. So body ecology diet and then mind hacking. That's awesome.
yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Jacqueline. Everybody, if you have not checked out Doxa, check out Doxa Watches. It's the craftsmanship that it blows my mind. So take time, check it out. But Jacqueline, thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for the platform, and thank you to everyone that joined. And if there's any questions you want to follow up on, you're more than welcome to find me LinkedIn or email me through Doxa, and I'm super happy to help anyone that I can in whatever way that I can.
That's awesome. Thank you very
Okay.
much. You have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.